And there are still people coming in, but shall we get this started?
All right, terrific. Well, welcome to the February meeting of AIA Silicon Valley. We're very excited to have you all here virtually, and I'm going to put forward, I'm sure we're all feeling the relief of the fact that we're going to be in person soon. And so with that, we'll have a few more virtual meetings, but we're coming, I think, to the end of this, and we're really looking forward to being able to have these programs in person again. So this is part one of a 5-part series, Advancing Your Entrepreneurial Potential. And this is in conjunction with the Latino Business Action Network and WIA. And our member, Mariana Alvarez-Parga, will be leading this conversation about her experience with business training via the LBAN Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. So we're looking forward to a very interesting conversation, and I'm sure we'll have lots of shared information from Mariana and her team with Jennifer and Elian. If we could go into upcoming events. After this evening, we have a wellness forum coming up on Wednesday, March 3rd. This is a noon event, lunchtime. This is put on by COPE, the Committee on the Environment, and it's a wellness forum and a chance to get together to talk about health and well-being through the design of the well-built environment. So we look forward to participation there. These lunchtime events are put on so that hopefully you can break away in the middle of your Zoom routines, grab a lunch, and join us for these. The second one will be Thursday, March 4th at 12 o'clock as well. So another lunchtime lunch and learn. This is provided by our partners at Haven and Wire, and they are a new partner looking to connect with some of our members, and they provide home technology solutions that are coupled with premium services to ensure that your systems are designed, installed, and maintained to last.
Oops.
One more in. Oh, okay, so sorry. Oh, there we go. I thought there was one more. So Thursday, March 25th at noon, another lunch and learn put on by one of our sustaining partners, Arch IT. And this program is about technology is your competitive advantage. And they'll be talking about technology within the AEC community. And Arch IT is one of our sustaining partners. They were founded on 15 years of experience providing IT support to architecture, design, and engineering firms.
Can we go back and talk about this slide?
Yep. So tracings, we have a call for volunteers. This is going to be based on member interest. Tracings was a publication produced by a large committee of volunteers that contributed to this for many, many years. And over time, some of the contributors that were influential have moved on in their careers and their lives. And so we're looking to reinstate this in a digital format. And so we're looking for volunteers that would be interested in contributing to help shape and launch this publication. We're in need of researchers, copywriters, graphic designers, advertising salespeople. It can be anything we want it to be, and we definitely are going to want to be looking for some great content that our members would like to see. So we have a committee meeting coming up. And I apologize, I thought the date was in there. I must have missed that, but the date is coming up. So please email info@aiasiliconvalley.org, and Chris Burnham can connect you with that group and make sure that you're included in that initial meeting. So we'd love to have you volunteer. Looking ahead to the 2021 chapter programs, March 17th, our March chapter meeting, we've had much interest in having a social hour, having some time to connect with our members and not talk about COVID, and just to have a chance to connect with our members and do some networking. So we're going to have a social hour, and in light of the March 17th St. Patrick's Day holiday, we will be providing a format for a little happy hour cocktail. So watch for the save the date and more information for registration for that. April 14th, we'll revisit the Return to the Office Part 2. This is in conjunction with the July program from last year, where we had a project manager join us from Facilicorp. We had our member Letitia Suhu join us from CBRE at Google, and we had some design, the VP of Design and Construction from LinkedIn, as well as the Global Real Estate Executive from Juniper. And they talked about what that return was going to look like, what they envisioned, what their research was telling them. And so 6 months later, we thought it would be great to revisit that and see what that research has turned up, how they are going to be going back. We know that some of these larger organizations are starting to bring back large groups. So that will be a great conversation to hear how that's transitioned over time. May 19th, and I apologize, we had a sketching program planned, but that is now going to be what was our March program, and that's a look and tour at the new Microsoft campus with Excel Construction. So we're looking forward to that. That's coming together. They had hoped to finalize construction a little earlier for March, and so with the delay, we're going to put them into the May program. June 16th, we're still working on a program. It's to be determined. We have some ideas with the advocacy committee. July 21st will be a Pechacucha. August, we anticipate that we're going to have vacations again. And so we've planned for a summer break as we would in a normal year. And then September 15th, we'll go into our annual chapter business meeting. October, we don't have a planned meeting. We'll be finished. We have AI 21 happening September 24th. And then November 17th, our COAT committee will lead that meeting as they did last year. So to be determined what their topic will be. And then December 15th will be our annual holiday party. And that will wrap up our 2021 year. And we're hoping that that last quarter, the fourth quarter of the year, will be in person. It's still to be determined, but we do hope that we can plan for that. So we hope we'll see you then.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And I think there is a slide that was missing. The advocacy committee has been formed and is really active now. They're looking for more volunteers who would like to participate in the advocacy committee. Advocacy will be doing things like Architecture 101, presenting design charrettes for certain communities. They're looking at promoting zero code and getting in contact with officials in different municipalities, and also helping disseminate any information about legislative action in the state of California. There's a lot more that the advocacy committee is working on. So if you're interested in that, please contact the chapter office and we'll get you in touch with the chair. Okay. And I am Jennifer Kretschmer, your president for the chapter this year. And I would like to thank and welcome our premier sustaining partner, Earthbound Homes. And we have other sustaining partners at the gold level. We have Block Construction, Bayprint Solutions, and Arch IT. At our silver sustaining partner level, we have Alphatech, Lionakis, AWV by Griggs Systems, and Novo Construction. Oh, here's the slide. This is the advocacy committee, the voice of the AIA. On there, there's the chairperson's committee email address if you'd like to join the committee. All right, so last month I mentioned that we're going to start a new program called Those Who Inspire Us. And being that I came up with this idea, and I find certain people very inspirational. I wanted to present the first one myself. My inspirational person is Paul Revere Williams, FAIA. On a trip to Las Vegas with my family, we decided to go to the Neon Museum. It's a place where retired signs from casinos and hotels that are long gone get a new life as a tourist attraction. As we walked into that undulating form of the visitor center, I really had this sense of deja vu. I was sure that I'd been in this structure before. As we checked in, I asked the host about the visitor center building, and she directed me to a display where for the first time I heard of Paul Revere Williams, FAIA. The structure of the building was the former lobby of La Concha Motel, constructed in 1961 at a site that was a few blocks down. The shell-shaped form was constructed using the techniques shown in these construction photos. As I looked at the photos in the display, I remembered visiting this hotel as a young child on a family trip to Las Vegas in the 1970s. And I think I have that postcard somewhere. The structure was saved from demolition in 2005, and it was moved to its current location in 2006 with the express purpose of being used as this visitor center for the Neon Museum. It was quite clear that the curators of the museum are proud of the efforts that were taken to preserve and relocate this unique structure and adaptively reuse it for the visitor center. As I continued to study the display, I was surprised at the many familiar buildings that Paul Revere Williams had designed through his very prolific career. At that point, I sort of became obsessed with him and his work. He's a California architect whose career included both commercial and residential work, like myself. He's a citizen architect who served as a planning commissioner. He was an active member of the AIA, and yet he was not very well known or mentioned. At the time, I myself was struggling to find my place in my chosen career, and I really felt that I had found this kindred spirit in learning of him, and his career and work inspires me. So Paul Revere Williams was born in 1894 in Los Angeles and studied architectural engineering at the University of Southern California, USC. At the age of 25, he won his first design competition. And in 1921, when he received a license in California, Paul Revere Williams became the first African American to receive an architect license west of the Mississippi River. In 1923, when Williams became a member of the American Institute of Architects, he became the first African American member of the AIA. 1 year later, he opened his firm, Paul R. Williams and Associates. As I mentioned, Mr. Williams was also a citizen architect and served in the Los Angeles Planning Commission in 1920 through 1928. He served also as in the California Draft Department during World War II. In 1947, Governor Earl Warren recognized Williams' character and integrity and appointed him to the State Redevelopment Agency. He also volunteered with the YMCA and the Boy Scouts of America. And Williams was a member of an advisory council for the Big Brothers of Greater Los Angeles, which in 1961, Ronald Reagan, who was later President of the United States, served with Williams on this advisory council. In the 1930s, we saw the Great Depression, but Southern California still encountered some prosperity through the movie industry. Williams began designing homes for the Hollywood elite, and by 1934, he completed 36 residential estates. It's during the 30s and 40s that he receives the nickname, the architect to the stars. Although he did not design the original structure at the Beverly Hills Hotel, Williams did design a number of additions and alterations at the property over the years, starting in the 1940s. This included the Polo Lounge, the Crescent Wing, and the Palm Court Terrace. He also designed the famous logo and that bespoke font on the Beverly Hills Hotel. In his honor, the hotel has a room named after him. He's also the architect of the Los Angeles Superior Court. Williams' practice expanded, and among the 2,000 homes he designed in graceful residences for legendary figures in business and entertainment, for example, Lucille Ball and Designor Inez, he designed for Lon Chaney, Frank Sinatra, and Barron Hilton. During World War II, Williams was named to the California Draft Board, and he designed 125 low-income housing units for the Army at Fort Wanaka. And in 1957, he was the first African-American elected as a fellow of the American Institute of Architects. He continued to design modernist and commercial residential buildings during the 1960s. The following year, after he had designed the La Concha Motel, he teamed up with Piera and Luckman and worked on the theme building at LAX. This photo of him in front of the building led to the myth and the impression that he was the architect of record on that project. Other notable buildings included the Golden State Mutual Insurance Building. Here is an actual photo of the full design team for the theme building at LAX, with the building under construction in the background. In 1973, Williams retires from practice, but continues to work in community service. He passes away in 1980. Paul R. Williams' career spanned 50 years and resulted in the creation of thousands of buildings, primarily in the Southern California area, but also internationally. He was prolific. Williams' business records, his letters, his drawings, his photographs were stored at the headquarters of Broadway Federal Savings in Watts. Williams renovated and repurposed this for former Woolworths building in 1954 for the bank. But in 1992, during the turmoil and civil unrest that rocked Los Angeles in the aftermath of the jury's verdict in the Rodney King case, the building and all of its contents were burned. In 2004, USC chose him as a distinguished alumni featured in one of their football advertisement promotions. Finally, in 2017, Williams is posthumously awarded the AIA Gold Medal. William J. Bates, FAIA, wrote in his support of Williams' nomination for the AIA Gold Medal by saying, "Our profession desperately needs more architects like Paul Williams. His pioneering career has encouraged others to cross a chasm of historic biases. I can't think of another architect whose work embodies the spirit of the gold medal better. His recognition demonstrates a significant shift in the equity for the profession and the Institute." In 1937, Williams had written an essay titled "I Am a Negro," where he states his experience of being an African-American professional. I look to his career in awe at all that he has accomplished. It's a career that I find incredibly inspirational and I believe was quite successful. However, he himself seemed to have always felt that he could have done better had it not been for the racism he encountered in his life. I also find it a little depressing to hear that most of his work, or many of his works, were lost in that 1992 fire during the civil unrest from the Rodney King police brutality verdict. But his adversity gives me strength. And I hope that in hearing about him through this presentation, that you may also be inspired by him. Paul R. Williams said, "I wanted to prove that I, as an individual, deserved a place in the world. I believe he did that, and at least he definitely deserves a place in my world. All right, so there is just not enough time in a presentation to share with you all of Williams's work. As you can see by this list of references, there's a lot out there. And I would really encourage you to take a look at some of his projects. I think you might find it surprising that you may have been in quite a few of his buildings before. Okay, so that's the Those Who Inspire Us presentation. We're going to now move on to the main presentation today, and these are the learning objectives. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Elia, you could bring on your screen.
Thanks, Jennifer. And while we're switching that over, I'll go ahead and give a brief introduction. For everyone who doesn't know me, I'm Kate Conley. I'm the events director for the WIA committee this year. And I'm also the owner and principal of OJK Architecture and Planning. I wanted to welcome everyone to the first of our 5-part lecture series that the WIA is putting together this year. We're calling it Intersections, Conversations for the Architecturally Curious. I think a lot of us have had nonlinear paths into and out of architecture over our careers. And so this year, as a means of continuing our allies and alliances theme from last year, wanted to explore all those different kind of offshoots and different pathways into our profession, primarily as a means of improving the diversity within our profession. That led to a partnership with the Silicon Valley Leadership Group and their Community College to Career program. We realized that community college students are a vastly underutilized and untapped portion of our pipeline into architecture. And so this year we are hosting community college students from 5 different colleges for each of our 5 different lectures as our guests so that they can become introduced to all of you as professionals. And hopefully forge partnerships and career opportunities moving forward. To that end, if you are a community college student and you're joining us, please put an S before your name in Zoom so that when we do breakout rooms after today's presentation, we'll be able to sort you into rooms with professionals so we don't end up with a room with all students in it. So again, just edit your name in Zoom, put an S at the beginning, and when we sort you out, you'll go into the right spot. I'll remind everyone of that again at the end of the presentation. So that being said, I'd like to introduce Mariana Alvarez-Parga, and she will introduce you to our topic tonight and the speakers that she's brought with her to share the first lecture in our series, which is Advancing Your Entrepreneurial Potential.
Thank you very much. I am very excited to be here sharing my ongoing journey. I am joined today by Elian and Jennifer. They are both from the Latino Business Action Network. Jennifer Garcia is the interim CEO of the organization, and Elian is the director of engagement. And the LBAN has a joint program with Stanford School of Business that's called Stanford Latino Entrepreneur Initiative. And I was very lucky to be part of that program, and we want to share a little bit about that today. So with that, we're going to start with Elian talking about LBAN and the initiative with Stanford University.
All right, thank you so much, Mariana. And I'm going to share my screen and present to everybody what LBAN is about. And just before I present that, as Mariana said, I am the Director of Engagement for LBAN, the Latino Business Action Network. My role within LBAN is the recruitment of our education program for skilled companies, which I'll talk about in the presentation, and a big initiative that we have, which is our access to capital. And again, I'll mention some of those things during our presentation, but really happy to be here with all of you and would love to answer any questions as well once we go through the slide deck. So I'm gonna go ahead and present. And can everybody see the slideshow? Yeah, just a Big thumbs up. Yeah, awesome. All right, so our Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative Education Scaling Program. It's a lot of words. We just go by SLAY and SLAY Ed. So I want to talk about the Latino Business Action Network and SLAY. So you hear two different organizations, but we are one big family. So the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative is the mother organization created by Professor Jerry Porras from the Stanford Graduate School of Business, along with a few alumni, that MBA students that wanted to give back to the Latino community and to the Stanford community. With that, they created a research institution, which I'll talk about in a second. But they created this second organization that's really within SLAY called LBAN, the Latino Business Action Network. And what we do at LBAN is the mission to strengthen the American economy by empowering Latino business leaders to grow substantial firms that create jobs, develop leaders, and spawn a new generation of companies. And our goal is to double the number of 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion Latinx businesses by 2025. Our focus is entirely on Latino entrepreneurs here in the US. We want to grow that American economy by helping Latino-owned businesses scale. And I'll talk a little bit more about how we do that and why we do that in a second. We have three different pillars of focus. Let's start with that SLAY research, that Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative research, because this is how it all started back in 2012, 2013. Latinos are starting businesses at a faster rate than the national average across almost all industries. That's a fact that came from that first research report. And it showed that during the last recession of 2008, 2009, Latinos were the only ethnicity creating businesses while everybody else was closing them. However, only 2 to 3% of Latino-owned businesses in the US are scaled. And we define scaled as anything above $1 million in revenue. So what we're seeing, or what we saw from that first research report, was that Latinos create more new businesses than any other ethnicity per year, but we're the least scaled at only 2 to 3%. So we're really seeing a big difficulty in getting past that $1 million. And from that, that's when the scaling program was created back in 2014, 2015, to understand and to help Latino-owned businesses scale. And so we collaborate with the Stanford Graduate School of Business, Executive Education, to educate and empower Latino-owned businesses to scale. I'll talk a little bit more about what that program entails and why it's such a powerful tool in the ecosystem. And the last pillar of focus is our national ecosystem development. We want to create resources and cultivate a network of scaled Latino entrepreneurs across the United States and Puerto Rico. It's really important for us to connect and grow that ecosystem with everything that we do. So let's talk about this report that we create. Comes out every year, once a year. It usually comes out at the end of January. It's the yearly report on US Latino entrepreneurs. We analyze, we measure, and deliver data on Latino entrepreneurs. And this data is then used to create policies, whether it's at the government level or institutions such as nonprofits or banking institutions. Now, we don't say what type of policy or what type of action should take place. We strictly talk about the data and sort of the things that we see within the Latino entrepreneurs. And I just want to really quickly just show something that a data point that was released in our last version, which just came out a few weeks ago. So we talked about how Latinos are creating more businesses than anybody else at a faster level, but our growth is also growing at an incredible level. And you see state to state some of those growths. So you see some states that are negatively impacted, but for the most part, we're seeing double-digit growth in most states, which is really great to see. I also have as a bullet point that $1.5 trillion gap. That's the difference between what Latino and non-Latino business owners make in a year. So that's the gap that Latino-owned businesses face, a $1.5 trillion. That's tremendous to the American economy. Imagine what would happen when we close that gap and Latino-owned businesses are able to scale at the same rate. Now, the growth rate in the number of Latino-owned businesses was higher than the US national for all employers, employee-based companies in 41 states. So that growth that we're seeing in 41 states is tremendous for Latino-owned businesses. There's a lot of data points like this that are in our report, and we'll link it, make sure to give you that information if you have some time to check it out. You can also see on our YouTube the latest video from this report. We do a 2-hour session where we have some fireside chat, we have some speakers, and really go and dive into some of this data, at least the most important points that we have in that report. So I want to talk about the SLAED Education Scaling Program. This is the program that we use for Latino-owned businesses, the one that Mariana was involved in, and how we really help grow the Latino business ecosystem. This is an 8-week online executive education program at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. It's a rigorous curriculum taught by Professor Huggy Rao of the Stanford Graduate School of Business. And the scaling principles really focus on strategies and implementation. We also augment the curriculum with mentors, topical webinars, and capital education. So like I mentioned earlier, that part about access to capital is really key. One of the big things that we see within our research is that Latino-owned businesses, along with any other type of business, any other ethnicity business, is strapped down by capital. Capital is what really helps elevate your business to the next level. And if you really want to scale, and I'm not just saying to 1 million or 5 million, if you really want to get to that 10, 100, or $1 billion, capital is the biggest tool to help you get there. One of the things that we see, sadly, is that within the Black and Brown community, capital is a huge constraint and a hardship that many of our business owners have to face. We don't have the same conversations, and we don't have the same level of education when it comes to that part of it. So we work a lot on how do we make sure that we give that same access of capital to our entrepreneurs. So I want to talk about the SLAED Alumni Network. Again, I'm going to keep referencing this, but Mariana is a great example of this alumni network and the power to it. This is really what makes our program special. We have 721 alumni. They're like-minded business owners. One of my favorite conversations that I had, I interview every participant that goes through our program. One of my favorite conversations was I talked to this welder in Denver. So he created a $3 million welding business. And he was from East Denver, a rough part of town. He told me, Elian, growing up, I was in and out of juvie, right? I was a troublemaker. He was like, secretly, I still am a troublemaker. But he's like, I got into construction. Somebody had put me in construction and I just felt at home. And I started growing in that field. And finally, somebody taught me to weld. And I became a welder and I created my own business. He's like, but Elian, I don't meet other Latinos that have been through this journey. I don't meet other Latinos that own businesses. I don't have anybody to talk to that understands my day-to-day. And so he came into cohort 7 and he was a big guy. And I remember that first weekend and we went on a break and he was almost in tears telling me, Elian, I have 79 other entrepreneurs like me. I never thought that I could see this kind of thing. So that's the power of our network, right? It's not just about the scaling education, but it's about finding somebody that looks like you, that went through the same type of hardship as you, and that has that similar journey. We have over 4 billion in combined annual gross revenue for our alumni. And again, we're reaching out to that top 2 to 3% of scaled Latino-owned companies. And I just want to talk about why we reach that 2 to 3% and not just those that are under $1 million. We want to take companies that are showing that the market, that they succeed in the market, that they have built their company and are ready to take that next step. We're then going to help them really scale up so that when they go back to their communities, be it in East Denver, be it in Miami, be it in San Jose, California, they can then scale their company while also helping to grow other minority-owned businesses. And so by helping one company scale, They are then going to go back home and help the rest of the community scale, and what we call generational wealth for the community. Our companies are employing over 35,000 employees. That's another key part of what we want to do. We want these companies to continue to employ, to grow that part of their business, and to employ more diverse executives within their company. So what are the qualifications? I talked about a few of them. It's 1 million in revenue or more from the previous year, or to have an investment of $500,000 from external sources. Again, we're looking for that market valuation that they're telling us, hey, this company is a good company and should scale. So I know some of you are saying 1 million, that's a pretty big goal. How am I going to get there? What we're showing here is Latinos are there, and Latinos will continue to be there. And so if you're going to start your business, this is an achievable goal. And maybe it is in 5 years, maybe it's in 10 years, but it is a goal that you should have because it is attainable. Again, just to go back to one of my personal experiences, I met a teacher that was a Latina, and when I told her about what I do, she looked at me and she goes, "There's Latinos that own businesses over $1 million in revenue? What do you mean?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. There's a lot of us." And she's like, "No way, you're lying to me." And I had to like show her videos of our events to kind of prove, hey, we are there and we are going to be growing. And there's going to be more and more of us. So the more we get educated, the more we get connected, the more we'll grow. So you look at that 1 million in revenue, you might not be there yet, or you want to create your own business at some point. You'll get there. Make that your attainable goal. We work with Latino-owned companies. We only take in the number 1 or number 2 person in a company. Ultimately, what we want is the decision maker of a company. We want somebody that can come in, learn, and then implement. And the last qualification is that we want companies that are headquartered here in the US. So that's our program. That's what we do both on the research side and on the education scaling side. We'd love to answer any questions if anybody has any. I know we also have the fireside chat, but I can take a minute here if anybody's interested in any questions. Right. And the last point before I pass it off to Mariana is that we will be having our next cohort starting in May. So if you know somebody within your network that should be a participant, you can go ahead and reach out to me. I'm always recruiting, so just let me know who that is. But we do the program twice a year. And so definitely look forward to hearing from everybody. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Elian. And I would like now to introduce Jennifer Garcia. As I mentioned before, she's the interim CEO, and we have prepared for you just a conversation to share a little bit about my ongoing journey. So Jennifer, you're there.
Thank you. I am. Thank you, Mariana. I just want to say hello to everyone. Good evening on this Wednesday evening, Wednesday night. I don't even know what it's like, where you're coming from. But thank you. Thank you for having us here. Thank you for inviting Alban. I want to say thank you to AIA, WIA, and for the students that are joining from West Valley College. I think this is a great opportunity to learn about so many different aspects of what the presentation today and the conversation that we'll have in just a little bit. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the invitation, and thank you for allowing us to join. I just want to briefly introduce myself before we get into the meat of our conversation. My name's Jennifer Garcia. I am the interim CEO for Alban, which you just heard all about, and you heard the passion come across in Elian's presentation. It is just an honor to work with entrepreneurs, and especially in a time and a season that we're living in today. I mean, I don't have to tell any of you, right? Small businesses are really struggling. There is a uphill road to recovery, and it is a wonderful position to be in where we can serve entrepreneurs to really help them, equip them, educate them, create a platform to network so that they can continue to grow. There's so many wonderful stories that we can share around that, but it's just a wonderful place to be for a season as today. So as it's already been mentioned here, Mariana was one of our wonderful participants that went through our program a couple years ago. And I want to just dig in. So Mariana, let's kind of dig in. And before I do, I actually am going to take a step back because you were busy introducing all of us. So if before we start our chat here, do you want to formally introduce yourself? That would be great so that the audience can know who we're speaking with tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, a lot of them already know me, but I'm an architect. I'm originally from Argentina. I moved here 20 years ago, and I couldn't get rid of my accent, so I'm sorry. But I moved directly here to the Bay Area. I started right away working here. I got my degree in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And since then, it's been, a great journey. And I am now a principal at 196 Architects that used to be in Madi Group. And I am very excited to be able to share, part of this ongoing journey.
Ongoing journey, right? That's exactly
Yes.
what it is. Entrepreneurship is an ongoing journey of upward growth.
Yes.
So I want to use the next few minutes to really connect the dots about what Elian shared in terms of what LBAN, Latino Business Action Network, does, and your experience as an entrepreneur, Mariana, and particularly as I listened to his presentation, there's a couple things that really stand out to me. He talked heavily about growth, right? The mission behind LBAN is to see the next level of companies grow. We want to get companies, Latino-owned companies, from 1 million to 10 million to 1 billion, right? That we want to see companies grow. He talked a lot about network, right? The power of a network, how important that is to be able to network with different organizations, different individuals, like-minded, etc. And then one thing that he didn't talk about that is certainly important is mentoring. And so we'll touch on that as well. So Mariana, let's just start with the importance of a network, right? You are part of several networks, one being the LBAN community, simply because you were part of the program. You were a graduate of the Stanford Latino program, which makes you everlasting member of our network. And you're also part of WIA. So I want to hear from your experience, like how do those two networks differ for you and why are they both important?
Yes, it has definitely been very influential to have these networks. And I think what I would like to highlight tonight is that networks give you, I want to highlight three things that they give you. They give you support, they give you courage, and they give you a platform to experiment. And I want to elaborate a little bit on how those two networks have helped me a lot. So the Women in Architecture Committee is the first group where I felt truly represented. I joined soon after it was formed in 2016. And before then, I had tried to network and go to networking events, and I didn't get that sustained relationship with someone that I could share experiences, learn from, contribute to them. It just didn't happen. With the Women in Architecture Committee, I just met exceptional professionals that were going through, the same challenges that I had. So having a group where you can share those challenges, and everybody has them. There's barriers for everybody, and you can name them, everyday challenges. You can name them glass ceiling. You can name them situations of inequality. You can name them not fitting the mold. Or you can stereotypes, you can name them just having poor management that you're dealing with. These are all things that when you are not connecting to anybody and you're working in a vacuum, you just cannot overcome those situations. But when you have like-minded people, exceptional, as I've mentioned, that share those same stories and frustrations, lessons learned, it's very powerful and helps you. Again, you get that support, understanding that, okay, it's not me, it's just the system how it is, and you learn how to navigate those and work around them, because it's things are things that still need to be solved, and it's going to take a long time to solve. A lot has happened, but there's still, those barriers are still going to exist. And that's what WIA has influenced or helped me, that type of support. The support from Elban is different in the sense of it is a truly ecosystem. There's so many resources that are shared with that network. Being business owners and entrepreneurs from different fields, there's a lot to learn, and you're surprised how much in common there is. And I witnessed this power in this last year since the outbreak of COVID-19, right? There was a flow of information happening regarding PPP loans, regarding legal matters. If you're working on ownership transition, where to go to legal, you name it. It's just a flow of information that's ready there for you. Now, the second thing that I mentioned that I want to highlight about having networks is courage. So I think I'm speaking for most of us when I'm saying that during a normal day, you can have positive things that happen to you, but there's that one thing that didn't go the way you wanted. And your thoughts are stuck on that negative thought. The networks and, for example, the Women in Architecture group, they help you balance those thoughts. They help you focus on the positive. They remind you of those talents. And not only that, they remind you of what you've achieved. So that gives you the courage to keep going, moving on. And whether it's a barrier or maybe it's just a bold move that you need to do, it's there, it's available for you. Again, you're not working on a vacuum. You have people that know you and have seen you in action. The courage that I got from Elban, well, I don't know how to describe it, but one of the favorite parts of the program is having gone through the design thinking process with them, which is already indeed an exercise that it's very, it's an excellent process to do. But when in the room, it's all entrepreneurs, the enthusiasm is contagious. And not only that, entrepreneurs share with you. It's when you think about entrepreneurs, you usually think about the nice things about or the achievements and how well they're doing. But there's the flip side to that. There's a lot of effort. There's a lot of sweat. There are failures also. So when you hear those stories and then you see them where they are, it gives you courage. It's contagious. You just want to do more. And that's where you take the courage. And finally, when I'm talking about a platform to experiment, I have found myself when preparing events with AIA, the local chapter, and the Women in Architecture, the flow of conversation is so genuine, right? It's a different conversation than when you are with coworkers or with a supervisor or your business partner or even with a client. In this case, it's all volunteers. You have a common goal of empowering people, sharing knowledge, and it's an open field for new ideas. And what I have seen is that you come aware of hidden talents and even passions that you have, and you implement them in that platform. You experiment with them, and from a small idea, soon after that, we started a series of conferences with a local chapter, and it's that effort of being aware of that brings you closer to your better self, and your better self in that environment, you can bring it into your everyday work, whether you are at the beginning of your career or mid-level or even in leadership. It's just a growth that it's amazing.
Great. I love how you break it down: courage, support, and experiment, right? Experiment to find and identify your better self. I do want to point out the obvious here is your networks, while very different, it's important to have different types of networks, right? So you have your trade specific network, and then you have an LBAN network, which is a little bit more broad in scope. I also want to emphasize for the students in the room, the network is the place where you describe your ability to experiment and uncover your own hidden skills and talents. And so just to emphasize that for, all the students around the table, it is never too early to begin networking. Mariana, I was listening to a panel a few weeks ago, and one of the panel members indicated to effectively network, you just don't want to have your name on the roster, right? You want to show up and you want to be present. And you may have already touched on this in points, but I would want to ask you more pointedly and directly here is, how do you develop your network? And if you think about, I like how you mentioned earlier when you started your career, you tried a couple different organizations and you didn't feel that connection that you were looking for. What did you do to really develop your network, to show up and be present?
Well, again, yes, there were many failed attempts for the longest time. And I think the best way that I saw results was actually by showing up and by doing, right? So once you find a group where you feel represented, and if you don't find it, you create one. You just do, right? And when you're planning things, again, it could be a fundraiser, it could be an event, it could be just a small happy hour, whatever it is, you expose yourself, right? You're planning on that, you're giving your ideas, and you're getting to be known by others. And at the same time, you're learning from those other members in that group. So the key thing is just, I agree, right? You have to show up and try again, and don't be afraid of failing. Don't be afraid of being part of one group and then this doesn't work, because it has happened to me. I joined, I tried, and I just didn't feel like it was the right place to be, and then I would leave. But I wish I had done it sooner. So that's what I'm saying. Regardless of where you are in your career, find a group where you can, have these experiences and a common goal. And I think the important thing to highlight is that these networks, and especially with the women in architecture that I'm so close to, they don't have more time than anybody else. You just find the time, and we meet on a breakfast time in the morning or during lunchtime. A few times we did, during the weekend, but we are all as busy as everybody. We are either parents or dealing with having to take care of it by someone that is ill. We all have the same things and same challenges. So it's not that you have to put a lot of hours there. You just find the time and it happens, and you take so much out of that hour once a month. Again, by doing, getting known. And what I said earlier, right? This network is the one that is that network that you find that representation on. There, you're going to be your constant reminders of what you're good at, and they're going to cut that self-criticism, and they're going to cut that "don't be perfect, just go for it." That is key for growing, both personally and in the career.
Professionally, that's right. So just do it. Just raise your hand and get in there and be involved to get known. I love that. One of the phrases that I love is jump and grow wings on the way down, right? And sometimes so many of us hesitate to get involved because we may have never done it. Maybe we never planned a fundraiser before. But the idea of just jump, meaning, raise your hand, and you'll grow your wings as you go. You'll figure out what you can do, and you'll figure out the areas that you need support in, and you need to collaborate a little bit more. So wonderful. Love that example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pivot a little bit to mentorship. One of the things that takes place in our program, in the Stanford Latino Scaling Program that Elian described, is entrepreneurs go through an 8-week journey where they are learning, they're back in school. They are learning, they're reading, they're writing, they're studying, and they're applying it back to their business. But one of the components of that is they are assigned a mentor for the duration of those 8 weeks. And so I want, and mentoring, we hear that all the time, right? I don't need to elaborate on how important a mentor is, but I want to hear from your experience, Mariana, is what specific roles have a mentor or has a mentor played in your life?
Well, that is funny, because actually the mentor that I was paired with during the program was my first ongoing mentor. So for the longest time, especially the beginning of my career when I was employed and when I first moved here to the Bay Area, I was in a constant search of finding that one mentor. I said, one, and I had friends that, they talked about their mentors, and I just couldn't find it. Sometimes, some people had, their boss or a senior coworker that they would learn and absorb a lot from. And I was in that constant search, and it was just not happening. But like 3 or 4 years into that first job here, I was, I felt I was stagnant in my career. I wasn't growing. I wasn't getting what I wanted. I was ready to, learn on, something different. And I broke away my shy and my being timid, and I actually decided to call a senior architect that was in a different division of that organization, and that I had interacted a couple of times, but I felt like I could connect and ask him for advice. And I just picked up the phone and asked him if he had half an hour of his time to give me the next day. He accepted, and it was the best step I could have ever taken, because not only he was super positive and enthusiastic about helping me. I presented my, the challenge that I was facing. He gave me great advice that, till today I apply, by the way. But that was a moment where I realized I basically learned how to learn. And what I mean by that is I realized that I needed to stop that search for the perfect person from where to absorb everything, but actually find the mentoring moments. So from that moment, I focused on being observant of the people around me, make sure, and started to pay more attention of surrounding myself with positive people, encouraging people. And when seeing someone in action and something that I would say, oh, I admire, or I like that, how this person handled a situation, I would do exactly the same thing. Do you want to, are you open for coffee? I want to, get your feedback on this, or over lunch, right? So that opened up again, it was a wider resource where I could learn from. So I was focusing again on mentoring moments. And it's amazing how many people are actually willing to help. It's innate, it's human nature to help. The collaboration, we get excited about collaborating. And so it just takes that fear of calling someone and saying, hey, I need this. And probably what I would like to highlight is the fact that maybe it's not asking them, would you be my mentor? Because at times could be intimidating, right? So I like to call these sessions more of a sounding board, because sometimes you just need that conversation. And as you're explaining your situation, you actually find your answer as you're presenting it to this person. So it's really sounding, hearing yourself, and just having the other person nodding or agreeing with you. Now, when I actually had the experience with a mentor during the program at Stanford, it was great. It was a single person that was checking with me every week. There were times that we did it twice a week, and I also want to highlight like 3 things that gave me. A mentor pushes you, challenges you. That's what I experienced with Joanne, who was my mentor. It widens your vision, and also she gave me perspective. So in terms of challenging and pushing you, it's because it's an unbiased conversation. That she was listening to the challenges that I was having, and when she was challenging me to give responses or strategies, it eliminated all intentions to impress. It was the real thing. How are you going to get there? And how, what are the steps? So it makes you think even further. I want to clarify to everybody in this session that the program ends with making a presentation that everything has to do with your business, but it ends with presenting to capital investments or banks to actually go and do the exercise of asking for a loan to be able to invest in your company, or whatever you need to be funded. So preparing for that, it felt like I was going to the Shark Tank on the TV. It was a terrifying moment, but again, a mentor helps you and push you to nail down every single situation and do deep thinking of what you're going to present. So that was great. Now, in terms of vision, what I have found is that, and I think also, the people around me when I was studying, the only vision that we had was, I want to be a great architect. I want to do great designs and build buildings. That's how far our vision goes. Not for everybody. Some have a clear path, but the majority, in my environment, they go as far as that. Oh, I want to do great things. Then when you go into your first few jobs, that vision is within the framework of that organization, right? I mean, you say, oh, okay, I'm starting as a drafter, and then I soon want to be a job captain and become a project manager, then maybe a senior project manager. But your vision is for what that organization is offering you. So in my case, for example, I didn't stop to think, okay, is this company aligned with my values? Is this how far my vision needs to go, right? So when you have a mentor, and now I'm talking on the personal level for career, or these mentoring moments that I'm telling you about, I felt they came late in my career, but finally it happened. It's a moment where you stop and think, and really plan where you want to be and what you need to ask for. So, going back to the experience with Elban, this mentor helped me think and plan, okay, for my organization, the business that I was, I was one of 3 partners, where we wanted to be in 1 year, where we wanted to be in 5, and where in 10, and how we were going to get into those steps. So it was very valuable. And lastly, when I mentioned perspective, a mentor, or mentors, the perspective that they bring, both from seniority and, even if it is someone from a different field, like in this case with Joanne, it's valuable, right? Because sometimes, again, you're just in that vacuum, and having different perspectives helps you. So they help you either by giving you an advice, sharing their lessons learned, and sometimes the help comes with just an answer of saying, be patient, because sometimes you need that as the answer of whatever you're handling.
I really appreciate your take on these mentoring moments, right? These mentoring moments expand your ability to learn, ability to who you learn from. Yeah. So I really appreciate that. There's so much to be said about mentoring, and you hit so many. I love how you said the vision, they challenge you, they push you, they give you a different perspective. One of the things that someone had told me early in my professional career, when I mentioned to them, I said, I really feel like you're a mentor. And they told me, Jennifer, well, you never told me that, and so I didn't feel like I had the ability to speak into your life in the role of a mentor. And that has always stuck with me, because I think it's important that when we think about mentoring, it's not a contract. You're not going to sign a contract with someone and say you're going to be my mentor for 8 weeks. But I do believe that it's important that you grant that validity to the relationship, right? And I love how you said it, Mariana, that maybe you use the term sounding board, or maybe you use it mentor, or whatever terminology is comfortable for you, something that really does give the other person the opportunity so that they know that they can speak into your life, which I believe is important, be that personally or professionally. All right, well, here's this, right? So we have some students, we have some young professionals in the room. What would be your advice now in terms of how do you find a mentor? How do you find that first, third, fifth mentor to help you in your professional career?
Yes, I think again, and based on my experience, it's just not trying to find that one perfect person. I think it has to do with being attentive of what inspires you and who inspires you. And if there's somebody, I think it comes hand in hand with gratitude, right? Or praising someone. When you see somebody in any situation and you actually liked how they reacted, how they handled it, and or what answers they gave, just tell them that, oh, I really admire how you did this, and this could be a learning moment for me, or can we go out for a coffee? So I think that's what I would focus on, is just trying to find those moments that I can learn from this person. And maybe it's not everything that you learn from that one person. It's just have your collection of people that you want to reach out. So that's what I would focus on, is being attentive to that, and just asking for what you want. I think it has to do also with asking for help before you actually need the help. A lot of us, and I think maybe culturally, there's people that feel like, oh, I got this, I should be able to solve it on my own, and it's been hard for someone to ask for help more than with others, than others, I mean. So it's not that you're asking for help and you're seeing, you're being weak. It's just a matter of like, it's great to open up again. It's great to have this sounding board, or it's great to hear the experience from somebody, and you'll always find something that to extrapolate into your own situation.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
When Elian described the program, he talked a lot about growth, right? That our role, our mission at Alban is to really help grow and scale organizations. And when I think about growth, growth is important professionally, personally, and when you invest in yourself, you're certainly then investing in your company as well. When entrepreneurs come to our program, when they participate in the Stanford Latino Scaling Program, many of them share that this particular experience, this 8-week experience, is life-changing for them in terms of how they pursue growth within their own company. We have testimonies of tremendous growth that entrepreneurs have experienced post their participation in the program. But I want to hear from you, Mariana, is just what your experience was in the program and how that was a catalyst for growth in your career.
Sure. Well, I just want to share that all 8 weeks were so valuable. Each week there's a topic that we cover, and you come back and apply it to your firm, and every single thing is like, oh my gosh, this is a chapter that I'm reading right now. It's just so relevant. So it's difficult to choose what was the one thing, but I think what I want to highlight is, I remember very, very vividly the interview when I was applying for the program, where I was sharing, well, here's where we are. We're a small firm, and we have all these goals to grow, and we have all these ideas. We're branching, the three of us were thinking, 4 different things that we wanted to do, right? Having gone through the program, I felt like those were more wish lists. There were not really real strategies to get to that point. So what the program has helped me was to admit that we needed to take one step backward in order to do 2 forward, or even 3 forward. So we went through an exercise that it made us face our reality. It made us understand our competition and how we needed to focus on one of those strategies and when. I think that was the clear thing, is like clearing the way to be able to grow and focus on one strategy. And the idea was to scale and to scale fast. So there are many ways that you can scale, right? You can grow your company by hiring more people. You can expand by having more locations. You can ask for funding to reinvest and grow on that. you can work on transition of leadership. Any of those, we basically focused on, okay, we want to expand and we want to do it fast. And that's what we did. And the decision was amazing. Especially for me, one of my goals was to reach to a certain level and have systems in place that we were able to do, and we achieved that within a year. So it's been a great experience.
I want to really highlight something you said because I thought it was so powerful. I wrote it down.
Okay.
You have, what it did for you was identify the wish list versus your strategies. And I think it's so important, right? When you think about growth can help you identify the gaps. And that's a good thing. Right? We might think of growth as just an uphill, the line chart going straight up or 45-degree angle up. But growth can also mean, let's take a moment, let's pause, let's identify and address these gaps so that you can continue to grow and sustain that growth. And thank you for highlighting it and just being so transparent in that, because I think it's important for us all to understand that it might require some backpedaling and doing some back work and foundation work as well.
Right. And again, I'm not paraphrasing, but from Jim Collins' book, From Good to Great, you can it's not enough to have a great idea, right? You have to know where to focus and to put the effort. A great idea alone is not enough. You need to put the brains and you need to put the effort in doing it. And that actually has to do with, again, confronting the things that are not working, clean them, and then move on.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Well said. Well, let's talk about this. We have a diverse audience tonight, from students potentially. We also have partners in their own firm. We have employees in other firms here. So if you are doing well, Mariana, what would you say to individuals that are doing well in their career, that they feel like they are happy where they are, or perhaps they're happy with where their company is right now, in a place where they're just good, right? Where they're content in terms of where they are professionally. Mm-hmm. What would you say to them in terms of growth, and why it's important that they continue to grow even though they might be in a good place?
Okay. We have 10 minutes to include some questions as well, but I will focus on the following. On the personal side, the growth is key to stay self-motivated. If you are a person that is working and expecting your exterior resources, your environment, or your employer to motivate you, you're not going to get where you want. You're going to have disappointments. So take ownership of what you want and grow. Be an eternal learner, no matter where you are. Even now, I am signing up for courses and webinars. You have to be an eternal learner to stay motivated. So that's important of growth. On the business side, scaling is important because there's two things. One is businesses and market, they keep changing, right? What's that phrase? The only constant is change. If you don't scale, you're not prepared to adapt soon enough to those changes. So you want to scale to grab the talents that you are missing or that you need reinforcing. You want to bring other knowledge that can help you adapt faster. And the other part of it, to be able to be adaptable, is the fact that you're not the only one in the room. There's going to be competition, and the other firms are going to also be part trying. They're competing for that talent, they're competing for that client. So the more you equip yourself with self-motivated people, just make sure you don't screw up to demotivate them. Then you can scale, right? And you can be the best of what you are. So I think that's why it's important to go in both those ways.
Thank you. Love that. one of the things that I say is that if you're not growing, you're dying. It's important that we all keep growing, no matter how wonderful the position and our situation around us look. So thank you.
Right.
Mariana, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for being authentic and sharing your story. We do have exactly 10 minutes, and we would love to open up to the audience for any questions. I guess we could welcome the questions in the chat right now.
Yeah, I see a comment here that, yes, I'm another person who have failed attempts at networking. And the only thing I can say is, don't give up. And I have found also people just saying, start your own group, find who represents you, or find your, people that have your same values, or, it's the best way to get farther. And I'm stealing this from a previous presentation that I did with two colleagues, with Katia McVeigh and Manny Farhadi, is you will get further when you are with somebody else, not just alone. So think of that. It doesn't matter what point of your career you are at.
Question that came in: how do you
Yes.
evaluate companies to see if they align with your goals, values, and vision? Great question. Do you want to take that, Mariana?
Yes, you won't have all the answers from the very beginning, but a lot has to do with their websites. Just look at their leadership. Is it a diverse leadership? Do they all look alike? And meaning that you have to fit that mold. Sometimes it does take trying, being employed and trying those things. I was lucky enough that I worked, in companies that there were great people and there was a lot of shared values. It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of being observant and reach out to your network and see what they know about that company, because that's another thing that I actually had experienced as I was considering in one of those moments that I felt my career was stagnant and I wasn't, for some reason I wasn't getting the promotion that I wanted. I used my sounding board and shared what I was considering doing, and I did get good tips on, maybe this is what I know about this firm. I don't know this one, but maybe you can do that. So it's a combination of doing a little bit of homework.
Right. Understanding the culture of the company is going to be instrumental in identifying if they align with your goals and values. And I could just add to that, informational interviews are really helpful. And I also respect people who go the extent of trying to connect, look on LinkedIn, find some employees and say, do you mind if I just talk about the culture of your company for 15 minutes? That could really help you.
But you also mentioned something that did happen to me. If you have an opportunity to interview, go and interview, because there was one moment that I interviewed and I knew that wasn't a place I wanted to be from a couple of interactions. And come prepared to those interviews with your own questions, because you can find some things and kind of detect that culture or those values if they are in line with yours.
Great. Here is a challenge for today's world. What advice would you give to a college architect student to encourage them to grow in distance learning environment?
Yes, it is difficult, but there are so many resources online that it's trying to find those and be part of them, right? So I know there's organizations and reaching out. For example, I know the AIA has some programs for students. Take advantage of firms that there's more and more each day. There's Kate mentioned the College to Career program, right? Yeah. So they put you in contact with firms that are opening internships. So that's your gateway to start, and step into the real world of a work environment. And you will observe, people on the job, and they can contact you with different things. And it can be virtually, right? And everybody has adapted in such ways in this virtual world. There's a lot of talk about Zoom fatigue, but then there's other events that giving a lot of companies are doing happy hours, virtual happy hours, or virtual events that has a lot to do more on the social side and emotional health, more than the technical side of it. So that's a good way to know people.
I would also add coming to events like this.
Exactly. You're
step
one.
A+ to all the students who came and joined us today. I had a question, if none of the rest have popped up in the chat. Back in Elian's presentation, he talked about capital and how that's really important for wealth growth. And I think when I think of entrepreneurship, I kind of think of that traditional model of someone has a product and they need capital in order to create that product or that app. So I'm curious, Mariana, how you kind of applied that mindset to a more traditional service profession like architecture, and how that applied when you were growing with your partners.
Right. So I've seen, I witnessed a business model where owners, they have a profit, but then they use that to, basically distribute it to the owners or distribute it as bonuses, and that's it. And then there's the business model where you take a lot of that profit into reinvesting in the company. So whether it's applying those funds, if you ask for a loan, or you're using those profits to scale by acquiring a company, or starting a new division for the services that you're doing, that's the way of reapplying those funds. So when I was doing the program at Stanford, it was, I based the exercise in presenting or requesting that funding for actually doing a reinvestment into the office, so into the firm. So that's the way of doing it, and it's in my opinion, is the more successful model, right? Having partners that agree with reinvesting in the company, it's the best way. And there's one question that I see here: how should students go about searching for jobs and internships? Pick up the phone. Pick up the phone saying, hey, or do you have internship programs? How can I do it? Again, look at your area, or look what you find on their websites. Don't give up. Don't be shy. Just go for it, and you will be amazed how many people are willing to help. I think this pandemic, the silver lining is it has humanized way more a lot of people, and I've seen people are tough being humanized, and there are people there out to help and willing to collaborate and give advice.
Great. Well, thank you. I just want to remind all of our students to add an S at the beginning of your name really clearly, so that as we break out into breakout rooms, we make sure to put you in groups with professionals. And I don't know if, Chris, are you going to be doing the breaking out, or?
Yep, I'm going to do the breakouts.
Fantastic.
Unfortunately, because we had so many late attendees, we couldn't pre-assign student, and we didn't know which ones were students, so we couldn't pre-assign them. So even putting an S, unfortunately,
okay,
it'll help you identify them in the room.
Great.
But what I'm going to ask is, of the students, if you get into a room and there's a lot of you should have a leave button, and if you have a leave button, come back, hit the leave, come out, I'll move you into another room. And then alternately, while you're in your rooms, as soon as you get started, I'll jump into each room and make sure we aren't too heavily weighted somewhere. And if I need to move people, I will. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you, Chris. And I would just encourage go ahead.
I just want to thank Jennifer Garcia and Elian for being part of this. They've been crazy busy, as Elian mentioned. He's working into preparing for the next cohort. I was part of cohort 6, but Elian, what number are you at now? 10?
So this year we'll have 11 and 12.
11 and 12. So they're being crazy busy, and also Jennifer transitioned into the CEO role. So it's a privilege to have their time tonight. So thank you so much, Jennifer and Elian.
Absolutely. Yes, you beat me to it, Mariana. I echo our thanks on behalf of the WIA and the AIA. This has been a tremendous learning session for all of us. So thank you so much, both of you, for joining us and taking the time to put together such a well thought out presentation. As you are broken out into your breakout rooms, I encourage the professionals to ask students what kinds of classes they're taking, what's challenging for them right now, what's coming really easily. And also introduce yourself, what firm you come from, what kind of work you do, and where you're located to get the conversation going. And then, of course, let it flow from there. So without further ado, thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you in a room.
Yeah, all great points, Kate. Thank you for pointing all of that out. I also put into the chat that we're in our scholarship period. So to all of those students, this is a great opportunity. We have 3 scholarship opportunities. We encourage you to apply for all of them if you're able to. And so I put our website link into the chat. So make sure you grab that. The scholarship program, the applications end on April 4th. So what typically happens, just real quickly, first of all, if you could all turn your cameras on, because when we put you into a breakout room, it's much less awkward for people if they're just looking at a picture of you. And it encourages more communication. So if you could pop those up. And then I'll also say, just because we're at the end of the day, it's 7 o'clock, I'm going to put you out for about 20 minutes. And then we'll come back. And depending on how many people have dropped off or had to leave or just zoomed out, then we'll see how many we have come back after that 20-minute period. And then if you want to continue and we have enough people that want to continue to chat, then we'll just keep up everyone in the main room again. Does that sound like a plan?
Great. Thanks, Chris.
Okay, I'm going to send you out. Let me make sure. Got after the drop-offs, let me reset you. And okay, sending you off. Oh, hi, Lisa. You didn't get moved. I'm not sure why. Let me see. Oh, I can't hear you.
No worries. I think I actually double clicked the button. So just swap me to a different room. I was actually in with Fernando too. We were laughing.
Okay. And it's not, usually I have you somewhere where it shows and I can just move you. So let me see if I can find where it means that you might still be showing in the room. There you are. Okay. So I will move you into room 2. Hey, bye.
Bye.
Yep. How come you're not going?
Because I'm just supposed to hang out with you today.
Maybe. Let me see.
Oh, so I was going to ask you, I was interested in the publication. I love working on like newspapers. I've never done it like totally 100% virtual, but I'm super big into like editing. So
Okay, we will reach out.
maybe
So my
not
background
right.
is publications.
Okay.
And I'd like to, if you've seen the flip books where online where it flips the pages,
Yep.
that's the goal, is to have a digital publication. Chris in our office knows InDesign, so she can create it. Once you put it into a PDF, you just drop it into a software program and it becomes a book. So
Awesome.
that's what we're looking to do. And we think that it'll bring a lot more energy to the newsletter.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It's, something different and
Yeah.
interactive.
Yeah.
So anything to do with like editing, I love, going through and fixing things and grammar. I know that's nerdy, but
Okay, perfect. Well, I've put you down for the committee, so Chris will message you. Now this is saying, it says I can move you, but it's also saying not joined. So I'm not sure why it's doing that. You don't have any message on your side that says join?
Nope.
Well, unfortunately, going to need to make a note to myself, figure out when that happens, what to do. Because normally you would show unassigned, but you're not. You're showing assigned. I'm going to try moving you to a different room and just see what happens.
I have a message that says I can join breakout room, but it doesn't
Oh.
give me a specific one.
Okay. Yeah. So if you can join, you were in, let's see, where are you now? Let's see. So it says that you're 4. So I think you need to click that.
Okay, so go to 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Bye. We're good. Okay. 10 minutes. Hello, everyone.
We're back.
We're all back
Yeah.
on mute.
We're back. Yes, we're all on mute.
Okay, so that session looked pretty well balanced. So that was good. We had 2 students in each room, except one had 1 student, but we couldn't have balanced it any better. And so I hope you had some great conversations. Do you want to go out for another session? What's the feedback? We have 26 people. We can certainly break you out again for another 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
We could do one more session.
And do one more?
would be good.
How come all the interns want to know how much they're going to get paid? That's all they're worried about.
I need to head out, but anyone, please feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I'll answer any questions, whatever. But it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, students, for joining us. This went better than I could have possibly dreamed. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Kate. That was
Have a lovely night.
Bye, Kate.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and send you out again. What we did find in the last meeting, for those of you that stay on and break out, I will look to make sure you're balanced. I'll try to move you quickly so that you're not mid-conversation if I have to move and balance the rooms. That's kind of one of the downfalls of, you might be in the middle of a conversation with someone if I move you. So I'll try to do it quickly after you go out to break out, make sure that you're balanced. If I move you, you'll have a join button. Make sure you click that, because that's what's going to move you. Okay.
Can I ask a
All
question?
right. I'm going to send you out again.
Who's a landscape architect in the group?
What's that? Somebody's asking a question.
Yeah, is there anyone who's a landscape architect in the group?
No, I mean, we have landscape architects in our firm, and we actually have a landscape architect in our San Jose office.
Cool.
What kind of question do you have?
No, it just it seems like that is the direction I'm interested in pursuing. And,
Seems like what?
That's an area I'm interested in pursuing.
So
Yeah.
Aquarius, if you go to our website and you look for an architect, you can search by architect type, and you would be able to find some of our members that are landscape architects. If you have any trouble, reach out to me, but you can reach out to our members that way.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Let me do, whoops. Okay. I'm going to send you back out again. And I think we're only going to have 3 breakout groups this time. So if it's unbalanced again, students, if I pull you out of the room, just look for your rejoin, move you to another room. Okay. Well, everyone, well, it looked like great conversations from on the back end because we had another balanced group of some of our great involved members and board members, along with a balanced number of students. So I hope this was really productive for you guys and very beneficial because we are happy to have you tonight.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
This is
Thanks.
definitely very insightful and helpful.
Yeah, yeah, it would be. We have more programs coming, so we look forward to seeing you all again.
Yeah, keep
All
checking
right.
our website, join our social media, and you'll see all of our upcoming events.
Yep, and apply for scholarships.
And volunteer for the programs committee.
Yes, thank you, Steve. All right, everyone, have a great night.
You
Good night,
too.
everyone.
Bye.
Chris
Bye.
Jen.